Ladies and gentlemen, prepare to hold your color. Okay, f*** it.
Hello again everyone, it's the Professor, and it's time for a commentary that I've been looking forward to doing. Today I'm going to be covering Guptil 89. Yes, that's right. Mr. Top 10 Hottest Sonic Characters, Mr. Cussing is Worse Than Bad Acting Children, and yes, of course, Mr. Child Abuse is okay in comparison to taking a crap in public. But yes, let's go ahead and get started on this, where we're going to be looking at his newest rant over technology. You want to know my biggest complaint about that intro? It's bloody boring! Spruce it up some there, Guptil. At least add something to make it a little bit more exciting, some music or something. It's too freaking slow. It's downright boring, man.
As a follow-up to Rant-A-Wreck Episode 3, I've discovered more things that are wrong with the machines and devices today. Since I already talked about the compatibility issues on computers and the pixel resolution of regular channels and the dumb button layout on HD TVs, it's time to move on to other issues.
And I would be assuming that your newest complaints are going to be about as logical as your previous ones.
Now, what other thing could possibly have flaws? Well, you'll probably jump when you hear this. Cars! What on earth is wrong with cars today, I hear you claim?
Well, thanks for that. You actually kept me from having to put in a sound effect that I would have actually used to make a joke. And then your usage of Audacity to try to echo your voice. Yeah, you failed horribly at that one, by the way.
Well, calm yourself and allow me to explain. For the most part, the ways cars perform today are great. Yet, when it comes to certain parts, there are three minor things that don't seem right. Digital screens for certain elements like the speedometer, temperature gauge and fuel gauge, electric window openers, and remotes that make the car honk.
Oh, I can already feel the nitpicking tearing away at my soul.
First, let's discuss the electric window openers. The car has to be turned on in order for the openers to be operated, obviously. So if it starts to rain or snow and your windows are open, you have to get your keys, turn on the automobile, operate the buttons, and finally turn off the vehicle.
Well, that doesn't seem too bad. At least it's not like my car, where you first have to turn on the car with 30 minutes of foreplay, then you can use your keys and put them in the ignition and turn the battery on, then you have to pump the gas 20 times, then you have to change it to 93.3 the Eagle Classic Rock, and then you have to honk the horn twice. Then you can start rolling down your window and turn the battery back off. The biggest problem with this whole process is the snuggling that's required afterwards. I always end up falling asleep.
But what if you misplace your keys as well as a spare key? Say hello to a huge pile of cabin snow or big puddles on the seats.
Say hello to something being your fault and not the fault of the manufacturers themselves. It is your fault that you lost the keys. And well, just look at this picture right here a little bit closer. This car seems to have manual windows, so that would definitely be your fault for not rolling them up when you saw the snow was coming from the sky.
If the car isn't in a garage. While misplacing your car keys is very rare, it still happens. Do you remember window crankers? They were better since you didn't have to go to all that trouble. They could be operated with or without the automobile on.
All I can say is this. Why does Guptil have a car? I don't think he needs to be someone who's driving on the road. Plus, I can just imagine the number of sonic window clings that he has in the back. Rouge Tabat over and over and over again, plus the one where she's making out with Amy Rose.
But you know what's really sad?
You still making videos?
When I was discussing window crankers with my car dealer, he mentioned that only 2% of the auto industry use them. And yet people say that's progress? Yeah, right!
Well, if a system is moving to a more advanced system, then yes, that would actually be progress. Though you can do a special order for the vehicle you are buying to have manual windows if you really want. The only thing is that you'll pay more for the car.
By the way, if the car goes into water, the engine shortens out and you wouldn't be able to control the windows.
Main question here, and other than the obvious reason, I'll let you figure that one out, why in the hell would your car be in the water? Even if it's due to an accident, most emergency workers that I know would say not to roll down the window, but to try to kick it out if you're going to escape.
Now let's discuss the digital meters and gauges. This is very minor, but the problem with these things is that if a fuse is blown, you wouldn't ever be able to see how fast you were going, how cold or hot the cabin is, how much gas you have left, and so on.
You know how much time it takes to change a fuse in a car? About half a minute or less. You really are a whiny little bastard, aren't you? Just change the fuse when it blows. It doesn't take a genius to do it. Do I need to make an instructional video for you to learn how?
At least with needle-based gauges, a blown fuse isn't too big a problem except during the night. Finally, we come to the cars that make a tiny honk when you use their remotes. This also may be incredibly minor, but by my standards, it sounds like the driver is trying to get a pedestrian's attention when it's not their intent to begin with.
Here's a fun game for everyone. Every time you see Guptill in public, lock your car with the key fob and make sure it honks so that he has to always look back because he thinks you're honking at him.
The chirping sound doesn't have that problem. Better yet, vehicles that are silent are the least distracting.
You know, I just think you're paranoid and feel like someone is following you. The thing about the chirp, well, that's for alarms, and the honk is for the standard locking to tell you that the car is locked. I prefer doing this over the silent ones because all I have to do is listen for the honk as I'm walking into the Walmart.
Now we come to the second thing. The internet.
Oh, please,
for the
tell
most
me you're
part,
not going to go
the
there
internet
again.
can be very important for certain information. News stories, video game walkthroughs, etc. However, the problem with these is that in order to get to the websites, you can pay up to $12,000 for a computer.
First, what kind of computer are you buying that costs $12,000? And second, doesn't this say $1,200? Yes, I know you put the annotation in your video on YouTube, but this does prove an actual point. You don't watch your videos for quality control before uploading them to the internet, which you are currently complaining about, by the way.
If you were going to use a game console, you'd pay up to $150.
No, you would be paying up to $350 depending on the version of the PlayStation 3 you want to buy. The new 320 gig is going to be going for $350.
It's true that there are tons of wealthy people who can afford those items, but what the community really doesn't seem to realize is that there are also poor people who can't afford something as expensive.
Am I the only one who finds this picture offensive? Just wondering.
Of course, internet cafes are much cheaper. In spite of that, no matter what computer you use, the net can go down for a long time by way of a big mess up or hackers.
Yes, because hackers have taken the entirety of the internet down before.
Because of the web, newspapers and video rental places like Blockbuster are in trouble. When video rental stores and newspapers are lost, everything gets more expensive and the poor get squeezed out.
So the internet is to blame for economic inflation? I can see how the internet makes the need for newspapers irrelevant, but not Blockbuster. Why? Because of Netflix and GameFly? Did you happen to forget about Redbox in that formula? Or just the bad business that Blockbuster's been doing lately?
In the long run, I can't justify spending about $900 to get onto Netflix.com.
Wow! The Netflix price increases were hefty lately, aren't they?
And create an account just so I can rent a movie when I can visit Redbox or Blockbuster and get what I want for just $1.
Unless, of course, they don't have what you're looking for. And the fact that they charge you another $1 for each day that you have it rented until finally they charge you the full $26 or however much it is, and you're stuck with the Barney Christmas special forever.
I could say the same thing about payphones. Cell phones can cost about $20 to $200,
Or it can be free with a contract.
and payphones usually only cost 50 cents to use.
Yeah, 50 cents for the first 5 minutes, and then 50 cents for every other 3 minutes you're on the phone.
If a poor person purchases a cell phone, they can easily run out of minutes.
Well, running out of minutes is going to be your fault yet again. Stop talking on the phone so much if you're having this issue.
Once that happens, they may need to use a payphone to make a call if they're away from home. Also, much like misplacing your car keys, you could forget your mobile phone by accident, and if you need to make an urgent call, it's time for payphone hunting.
And yet, it's going to be your fault yet again. And wouldn't that be an interesting hunting show? Hunting the payphone with Guptil89. Holy crap, you found it!
Going back to the internet topic, what if in the future we would have to buy electronics strictly from BestBuy.com instead of the store, or hardware from the Home Depot's official website?
Convenience?
American
What's
life
that?
is being turned upside down, and I don't think for good reasons.
You know, I believe putting an American flag upside down is a bad thing because it's a sign of anarchy or something of that sort.
Something else I have begun to have a beef with is online school classes. Again, does nearly everything have to be over cyberspace?
You know, most colleges let you pick between online and classroom classes. Don't go to schools that advertise as online-only schools if you have this much of a problem in the first place.
The only advantage I can see with online classes is not having to drive to the school, especially in bad weather. Being in a classroom is better because you're always required to listen and do the assignments.
Then what do you say to the guy who is always sleeping in class and never does his assignments? That is why there's a grading system. Listening and doing assignments is a choice, and you have the right to flunk out of said class if you really want to.
Online classes can work the other way around. The information superhighway is the most distracting thing on the planet, and some students can easily stray from the college website and do poorly.
I'm just going to guess that this is their fault as well.
Of course, things similar to this have happened in the past, although something tells me it's more severe these days.
Are you saying that this kid is in college? Or is it the lady who is griping out the kid?
The cartoon short Internet Distractions by College Humor paints a clear picture on how diverting the World Wide Web is.
You know, I really thought collegehumor.com would be on your blacklist. You know, what with your whole being a member of the No Cuss Club.
In conclusion, don't throw out window crankers. Video rental stores and newspapers should continue to thrive for decades, and online school classes can't be treated as another internet amusement.
Final thoughts. Guptil still no like changes. This was nothing more than a video nitpicking about stupid things yet again, much like his other rant videos. I have nothing else to say on it, so this is the Professor signing off.